Make sure you don't miss a thing. Go to starzology.com/newsletter and sign up. Welcome to the Starzology Astrology Podcast. I'm your host, Alison Price, and I'm here with my good friend and co-host, Arwynne O'Neill.
Hello, Alison. It's great to be here again.
So nice to have you once more. So in this episode, we're going to be talking about the Venus retrograde period that's happening in 2025.
Yes.
Okay, so what we're having with this particular retrograde period during March and, it's happening in March. What's happening is Venus is coming along in Pisces. It's going to be entering the shadow period on January the 29th, so technically it's already there. It will then enter Aries and move along till 10 degrees Aries. So then on March the 2nd, it's going to station retrograde, and that's when the retrograde period actually begins. It will then move back through Aries and move back into Pisces on March 27th, and then it will do its station at 24 Pisces on the 13th of April. When it once more turns around and goes direct, it will then get through the tail end of Pisces again, re-enter Aries, move on out and clear the shadow by May the 16th.
Nice.
So these are quite a load of numbers here.
Absolutely.
But basically, it's going to be a retrograde from March the 2nd to the 13th of April, from 10 Aries to 24 Pisces.
Nice. So how often does Venus go retrograde?
So Venus is retrograde 5 times in 8 years.
Yeah, and it really does make an interesting pattern. It's
Yes.
really cool. Like we can just tell our
I'll put an image on the actual blog post.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Because it makes this beautiful flower pattern.
Yeah.
It's very cool.
Yeah. So it's the five petal star thing that Venus, they call it the Venus star, apparently.
Yeah.
So what happens is, because it's 5 times in 8 years, there are some years when Venus is not retrograde whatsoever. And I believe last year was one of those years.
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes if it's crossing across from the New Year period, it will be on most years.
Yeah. And there's a whole interesting thing. It's the stations of Inanna, I believe, her descent into the underworld. And you can look that whole mythology up, which is super interesting. And it's all about how she, her sister was the goddess of the underworld, and she had to go down into the underworld, and you're not allowed to, have like coming and going privileges unless you're the queen of the underworld. But she had to shed a piece of clothing or like a piece of jewelry or something like that. So she entered the underworld naked, and then was able to barter for her passage out.
So is this another myth related to Venus?
Myth. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Related to it predates the Greek mythology, because it's Sumerian, I believe.
Okay,
yeah,
and her name was Inanna.
Inanna, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's a really interesting one, but it has to do with the cycle of Venus and the 8, 5 and 8 sort of thing.
So these numbers are also part of the Fibonacci sequence that we see in nature, right? Which I find very interesting because you see it in many sort of patterns, and you see it on pineapples where they've got 8 knobs going up one way and they've got 13 going up the other way.
Yeah, there's a lot of fruits and vegetables.
Yes.
Pineapples, artichokes,
sunflowers,
all those. Yeah.
And the nautilus shell, right?
Yeah.
That does it too. So this is where you get this golden ratio where things look good. That shape, that rectangle shape of 8 by 13, which is like the side of the Parthenon and so on.
Yeah.
And it's beautifying. We think it looks better when they've got these ratios of 5, 8, 13.
And it's just this natural process of pattern that has to do with maximizing the ability of something to grow and cycle and it's pretty cool.
So the fact that we consider these shapes more beautiful is hooking into one of the themes of Venus, which is beauty and aesthetics, really.
Yeah, totally, and fertility and growth and abundance and
So it's really quite an interesting thing.
Yeah, definitely.
So the main thing I think to consider with this particular Venus retrograde is whereabouts in your chart will this occur. Mm-hmm. So again, we're talking between 24 Pisces and 10 Aries. Mm-hmm. So the important thing is to know exactly whereabouts in your chart this retrograde will occur. So for you, Arwynne, it's going to be
right across my 5th and 6th house.
That's super interesting. It's going to make some conjunctions to a couple of your planets there, I think.
Yeah, Eris and...
Oh, actually, no, it's not far, going far enough. Look.
No, it's not. It's going to be just short of my Eris.
Okay, so there we have it. So it's still going to be the 5th and 6th houses for you.
Yeah.
And for me, the whole thing is actually in my 10th house.
Nice.
So I don't know if you've got any ideas about what you're going to be doing 5th house-wise, where you're going to revisit Venus themes such as beauty and finances, which we haven't quite got to yet.
Yeah, there might be something to do with my hair or some dental work in the future. I don't know.
Okay, well, and I was thinking about it earlier today because it's happening in my 10th house, which is, the public domain, that I will probably revisit and redo some of my things I put out there, some of the newsletters and things, and I've been rethinking about how to do it differently and get on a better cadence that suits me better than the one I'm on at the moment.
Yeah.
So
nice.
Might be looking at something like that.
That's great.
So some of the themes really, I think, about what to expect during this Venus retrograde period are, because we know that Venus rules love and money, which are integral to everybody's life, right?
Yes, they're the two things that they say make the world go round, right?
Yeah, and they're both Venus. So this Venus retrograde period can feel like some cosmic slowdowns in matters of the heart and finances. So if we look at relationships, because it's 7th house, which is really what Venus is and the Libra thing, I'm suggesting that old flames, long-lost friends or unresolved conflicts may resurface.
Yeah.
And it would be an idea to use this time to gain closure or clarity rather than reigniting an old flame who's coming from the past.
Yeah, and analyze your motivations and what went right and what went wrong and what you can learn and take into your next relationship.
But frequently you can hear from people you used to date or ex-husbands or who the heck ever it is when Venus is retrograde, because the urge is there to go back to former love, to revisit and rekindle and reignite.
And cyberstalk. Yeah.
And cyberstalk.
Which might be a healthier way to do it than actually reaching out to them.
But I think that the thing is that you need to realize that this is just a short period of time. I mean, it's, what is it, 5 weeks, 6 weeks. And although it might seem a good idea during the Venus retrograde period, when Venus finally goes direct again, you're going to see the light or the writing on the wall, or what you'll remember why it didn't work out the first time. Yeah,
for sure. Another way of taking advantage of these energies, if you don't have an old flame or old friends you want to reconnect with, maybe beautifying something in your home that it's in need of renovation or fixing up. Sew some buttons on or get something hemmed that you've been hanging on to that maybe just needs to be altered or adjusted so you can wear it again, or frame some old photos you've had sitting around and you don't want to get rid of them, that they're just sitting in a drawer, and actually do something with them, put them on the wall, or and take an old calendar and take it apart and frame some of your favorite months or
and this comes to which houses are happening for you,
right? So
this is where you're likely to go back and say, was that really that bad? Let me try that on again. Do I really look bad in this hat or something?
And if it is, get rid of it if it doesn't fit anymore, if you're not gonna make some room in the closet for the next wave.
The next or this is where you get rid of all your cosmetics, isn't it? All those things that
clean out those. Yeah, exactly. All those lipsticks that are just slightly the wrong
not
shade.
Quite.
Exactly.
They're just not working for you.
Not, there's never going to be a time where all of a sudden that color is going to look good on you. If it doesn't look good on you the day you brought it home and you've just had it sitting there in the bottom of the drawer, get rid of it.
It's so true. It's so true. And we all have it, right? We've all got those things. Even, you never learn. You never learn. Yeah. So this is the thing, though, with that Venus, that you want to be leaning into Venus themes.
Yeah.
So then let's have just look about money. And so I'm saying financial reflection here because we all, Venus covers not only love but money, and you can reevaluate your spending habits, investment strategies, and your financial goals.
Yeah.
But avoid major purchases or signing contracts during this time, as decisions may need revisiting later or revising later because Venus is retrograde, particularly financial things.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great advice. I do actually have an appointment at the bank to talk about investment accounts of all things.
Do
so
you?
Boring. Oh, yeah. So there's
During this Venus retrograde period?
Actually, a little sooner. But anyway, yeah. It's it's one of those adulting things.
And when it comes to us all, right? Well, it is in the shadow.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
So here's the point, that even if you have your consultation with your bank manager person, when Venus is direct at a certain point, it will then come back for the second kick of the can when it's retrograde. And they'll say, oh, hey, how about this, Arwynne? Have you thought about that? Maybe we can adjust your interest rates, blah, 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 blah. And then you'll still get the third one.
Yeah. That's great.
So that's why there are three hits to transit. So that will be interesting to reflect on that later on and see how it did unfold, because maybe you're not going to get all the facts to start with, which is typically what happens during retrograde periods. That the situation unfolds at the first pass, and then you get more information, but not all of it.
Yeah.
For those of you interested in a little more, I'm now offering online astrology seasonal sessions. So there's one session in each of the solar seasonal mid-months, which will be February, May, August and November. I'll be chatting about advanced astrology topics through a Zoom presentation. If you're interested, check out the link for my seasonal sessions in the show notes below. Now back to the episode.
That's probably for the best. The way I deal with money, I'd rather have the information come to me over the course of 5 weeks as opposed to all at once. Probably safer that way.
Oh, I see. It won't keep you awake at night.
Oh, God. No,
Yeah. And then that third pass will give you the final say where you're going to say, okay, we're going to do this.
This is the plan. Yeah.
Because then it's direct and it makes more sense during that period.
Yeah.
So that's kind of interesting too.
For sure.
And once more, it does depend which house in your natal chart this Venus is going to retrograde through.
Yeah.
So we said for you it was the 5th house, so that might be your creativity, clearly. And your fun and I would imagine you're out and about with your sports and whatnot. And
it's been, as you know, we've had a cold snap here.
It's been flippin' cold.
Ridiculous. I am absolutely happy that I hate to say it, but I mean, I was sick all last week and I have not missed at all. I've been outside once in the last week.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and it's fine. I do not mind at all. I'm like, nope, I don't need to go out there.
Well, this is it. I went out. I had to go out this morning. It was -3 as I hit the street.
Gross.
And I thought, good grief.
Yeah.
You feel like there's a clamp on your head. It is so cold. Yeah.
I do have that nice big warm coat now, but there's just nothing that makes me want to go out there right now.
Exactly.
No.
So as Venus moves through, then of course this is later on. March, April. You're definitely going to see.
It'll be beautiful.
It will. So the idea is that because we know the Venus retrograde period is coming up and we know that it's to do with money and beauty, and a third point I wanted to talk about was refining values. So how you view beauty in yourself, in others and in your surroundings may shift. And you might feel inspired to reassess your style, redecorate your space, or rethink what truly brings you joy.
Nice.
These are all very pleasant things.
Yeah.
It's not a harsh retrograde period.
No, not at all.
But again, I was thinking because it's happening in my 10th house, I am probably going to add some more color but it's to do with public domain and career. So
revamping and restyling.
Reassessing. What am I going to redo my website one more time? I don't know. I don't know if I could do that, but I might reassess the color palette,
Yes.
Okay, so each retrograde cycle has a pattern of activities that are occurring. And with this particular one, as Venus goes retrograde in 2025, so Venus will enter the shadow, or Venus entered the shadow on January the 29th. So it's already in this position. So anything that's happened since January the 29th up until the point of the retrograde, there's going to be 2 more hits of that transit. So that's what you're looking out for there.
Sounds good.
Venus will actually station retrograde on March the 1st. Well, it depends where you live. It might be March the 2nd, but for us, it's March the 1st. And themes of reflection begin to surface now because it's now moved into that retrograde, going back looking. The Sun will then conjoin Venus on March the 23rd. So this marks a moment of insight and clarity within the retrograde period, if you're paying attention.
Yeah.
And then Venus will retrograde back into Pisces on March the 27th. So it's moved from Aries back into Pisces, which is where it's better placed because it's in exaltation anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And then it will station direct again on April the 12th. And forward momentum once more resumes, which is great. And then it will get up to speed. And it will finally leave the shadow on May the 16th. So this is quite a period from January the 29th to May the 16th.
Yeah.
Venus is going to be doing 3-hit transits.
Quite a while.
So if you have planets between 10 Aries and 24 Pisces, you will get a 3-hit transit from Venus.
Yeah.
I don't have any, you don't have any, but for those who do, you want to find out what dates, what those 3 dates are going to be for the Venus, because it's usually going to bring something nice.
Yeah.
Bring good things, bring opportunity, bring money, bring love.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, for sure. Would you say that would be a good day to schedule a haircut?
Yeah.
To reassess your style.
Yeah. And decide what is beauty.
Yeah.
And
donate a bunch of clothes.
Yes.
And go shopping for you. Spring cleaning.
Yeah, sort it all out. Yeah. So another way of looking at these 3 hits from when Venus goes retrograde is not only with the conjunctions but with the oppositions as well. And we just happen to have a look at your chart, Arwynne, and we see that during this Venus retrograde period, it's going to oppose your Pluto 3 times. Now, that Pluto is in the 11th house, and you would know more about what that represents for you in your life.
Yeah, for sure.
Who you are with different groups of people that you hang out with.
Yeah, well, I mean, I do have Venus. It's a wide conjunction, but I have Venus and Pluto both in Libra, and I think of them as basically conjunct. They're very widely conjunct at like 9 degrees, whatever. And they're in the 11th house, which I think is interesting.
Because I do see you with different groups of people that you hang out with. You've got your sporty group and your auntie group and your astrology group and your this and that, and your people downstairs and whatnot.
Yeah, definitely.
So
we like to have really interesting friends.
Yes. So we're likely to go deeper.
Yeah.
In unexpected ways, perhaps, because we don't really know how that would be unfolding. Yeah. Or through your creativity in some way, 5th house may express itself in that way, that you can express yourself that way as well.
Well, I mean, I'm hoping, because spring and fall are when the burlesque shows tend to happen. I'm hoping there might be another one coming up this spring.
You can get in there.
See.
Yeah.
We'll see.
And interestingly, because your Venus is at that 1135, which means that actually the station, I don't have the exact degree, but it is stationing at 10, so that is within orb. So what that means is that original station retrograde that Venus is going to make on March the 2nd is going to linger and oppose your Venus. So it's like, we would also call it a Venus half return.
Yeah.
So maybe this is where you're going to say, I hate my hair, and chop it off, and then you think, oh my goodness. But it's going to be something like that where you, as the femininity and the woman whom you are, you may decide there's got to be a change here.
There is a color change on the horizon. No spoilers, but that the timing does sound about right. Yeah. Well,
what color? Well, you mean what is going to change color?
Well, it's a bit hot pink right now, and it's going to go lighter pink for the summer.
Mm-hmm.
There's going to be a.
You're leaning into your Miss Pink.
I am. Yeah. There's going to be some really cool pink going on. Yeah, it's going to be great. I have pictures of it. It's going to be exciting.
Okay.
I'm excited about it, but I'm going to wait until closer to spring, summer, because winter is just like
clearly you've got to wait till it clears, because not only you'll get the lingering on the station, and then it will also then on May the 16th will still make that opposition to that Venus position. Yeah. So that might be when we get to mid-May where you decide this is the one I like.
Yeah.
So there may be some trying. Mm-hmm. This is too orange. This is too purple. This is too salty.
This is just right.
You want it just right. Yes, indeed.
Yeah, cool. I love it. I'm up for that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if someone comes to you for a consultation and they have Venus retrograde in their birth chart, how do you interpret that?
Well, typically they're adults by the time they get to me. If Venus is retrograde in your birth chart, it will only stay that way by progression for at least 42 years.
Oh, interesting.
I actually have this. I've got Venus stationed retrograde in my birth chart. It went retrograde the day I was born.
Wow.
And then by progression, up until the age 42, then it went direct.
Wow.
Yes.
That's so interesting.
And things became easier. Love and money became easier when the progress Venus went direct. But I would always look to see when would it have gone direct, because it could have been within any time within that 42 years.
Right.
And by the same token, if somebody comes to you and they're, say, 35, you still want to see, is Venus direct now when it wasn't when they were born?
Absolutely.
Because they're going to be dealing with that for 42 years.
Right, absolutely. And it might have been, halfway through the cycle or towards the end of the cycle when they were born. And you'd want to, for sure, check that out.
Exactly.
Interesting.
Exactly.
And then you'd be able to say, well, what happened to when you were 28 or so?
Well, that would have been the turning point, you see.
Yeah.
Yes,
Nice.
yes.
Nice.
And, that's definitely got a story there. But, things, love and money became easier for me after the age of 42. It was just not such a harsh thing to deal with all the time.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So if you were born with Venus retrograde, don't worry. If you're a younger listener.
And also, if you have it retrograde in your natal chart, you withstand the Venus retrograde periods by transit a lot better than those who don't.
That's an interesting thing I've found with Mercury retrograde.
Same
thing. Yeah.
You really can. You understand the meaning of it because you're living with it.
Vaccinated somehow.
Well, you get it. Whereas those who don't have Venus retrograde,
they're just blindsided by what? Why?
Often.
Why? Yeah.
Frequently. Yes.
Cool.
So getting back to looking at these oppositions from this 3-hit opposition from a Venus retrograde, we notice now in my chart that it's actually going to be opposing my Aries in the 10th house.
Mm-hmm.
So, which is of course the female warrior,
the bad girl of the zodiac.
The bad girl, and the good girl is going to struggle with the bad girl. So who knows how that is going to unfold? But definitely, I need to pay more attention now that we've spotted it. To those 3 days in the year that's coming up where Venus will be opposing the Aries, because I'm likely to be, dare I say it, difficult? Me? What? No. If for some reason in work or whatever it is I'm trying to do or achieve in the professional life, because it is 10th house.
Yeah.
So,
something to put on the calendar.
Something to spot on the calendar. Yeah. And of course you can look at all the others. Is it going to be square? Is it going to be, I never do trines, but conjunctions really are more, I think, potent than anything else.
Yes. Yeah.
So again, if our listeners have anything between 24 Pisces and 10 Aries, you're going to get a 3-hit transit from Venus. Make sure you know when the dates are. Make the most of it.
Yeah.
And open yourself up to a beautiful and financial pleasant time.
Yeah, reevaluation and renewal.
Yes, rejuvenate yourself. Like that Venus coming out the clam.
Yeah. Exfoliate.
Do that, especially in time for spring. Lovely.
Yeah. So just a bit about Venus, because, why wouldn't we talk about Venus? Venus is the goddess of love in Roman mythology, based on Aphrodite, the Greek goddess of love, and also the goddess of. I always, obviously Badass Goddesses is my kind of like brand.
Yes.
But it's funny how when you dig into any of these myths, even the goddesses of love and fertility and grace and beauty and balance and harmony and all this stuff, they have their sort of bad side, or their vengeful, their vengeful side, where they strike people blind for not worshiping them enough. Narcissus was famously a victim of Venus's wrath because he was in love with his own reflection, and he spurned the advances of one of, I can't remember her name now, but one of Venus's followers was in love with Narcissus, and he ignored her and was just like in love with his own reflection, or he was vain, and Venus made him fall in love with his own reflection. That was the thing. That was the punishment, right?
Okay.
So he in some tellings of the myth, he starved to death because he was just too busy staring at his own reflection in this pond, and in some tellings of it, he actually fell in and drowned. So this is because he was vain and was not having anybody, and so that was Venus's revenge on him. So basically, the moral of the story is like, don't mess with Venus. Like she's not to be trifled with. She's she give and she taketh away,
Right.
Like any gods.
Yeah, so even we see her as beautiful and charming and delightful, and they've all got that darker side, right?
Absolutely, that's the key.
So know who you are, know your Venus.
Yeah, and also I think a modern takeaway for that would be, don't take love as don't trifle with other people's emotions. Don't think of it as a game,
Yes,
and
that's true.
Gamification of romance is one of the unfortunate side effects of being in a technological society. I think we've all probably seen that Instagram chart where they show like how people met in the 50s versus now, and it's just this chart of like, introduced by family, introduced by friends, met at a party, met at school, met through church, whatever, and then
now
and then it goes, it shows you the percentages, and then up to now where it's like literally 90% of people meet online, and everything else is just like almost nothing, which is crazy. Mm-hmm. But with
the way we live, though, isn't it?
It's convenient for sure, but with that also come a lot of pitfalls, and one of those is gamification and feeling like there's always going to be something else better around the corner, and downplaying the incredible importance of things like chemistry and things like, it's not always enough to have everything in common or to be an algorithmically perfect match, because there is something to growing fond of somebody and having your own thing and not having everything in common and not being matched up perfectly. And, people say, there's these things are deal breakers. You have to both want children. You have to both want to, live in the same type of place. You have to like each other's parents and no, like there's certain deal breakers for sure. Like, if he's rude to waiters, if he's rude to your mother, yes, that's, if he kicks, animals, like, these are obvious deal breakers. But there's so many things that you can get over. Like if you think, I could never be with a guy who's super into sports, or I could never like a guy who, whatever, come on, that's just silly. And I think people attach themselves to those types of beliefs because it's an easy way of going, okay, well, that narrows the field because it just seems like he
doesn't check my boxes. That's what we're saying, right?
It's ridiculous. Yeah. And of course you want to narrow it down because it seems like there's just an ocean of things out there because the algorithm feeds you all these options, especially as a woman. You're like just inundated. You feel like, how will I narrow it down? And okay, he's just, got this one thing wrong with him. He's not tall enough. He's not rich enough. He doesn't have whatever. And that is a recipe for never, ever being happy,
Well, they were saying that these new online dating apps are very differently seen by men and women because of 100% of men online, they will say yes, yes, yes to every virtual woman, to 96 of them, whereas the woman online will only choose 4 out of 100 guys. Yeah. And there's this total imbalance, but that is really how it's selected.
Yeah. And that's also, I mean, that mirrors real life in the classroom or in the bar or in the, the old timey way people met was, the guy would be the one who would ask the girl to dance or ask the girl out like 90% of the time. And it was the woman's job to be selective and be like, no, or, maybe, or if I'm
still
drunk or whatever. But it's, gosh.
But it's just brought it into sharper focus, I think, that
super interesting.
Men and women looking for different things, really, when it comes down to it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have gone through the 2025 Venus retrograde cycle that's coming out in March, April, and with some hanging on bits at either side with the shadows. And we've given you some ideas about what you can anticipate, where to look for it in your natal chart, what you're going to be paying attention to, how to make the best of it, and why wouldn't you? Because if you're not paying attention, this will pass you by. It's one of those milder transits that's coming through. Yeah. If you found value in this episode, please do consider sharing it with anybody who'd be interested. Make sure you're getting our newsletter, and you can sign up at starzology.com/newsletter. Certainly make sure that you're following Arwynne, and you can find her at...
You can find me at mspink.net. That's mspink.net. And I am blogging about art and books and nostalgia and politics and society, and not that much politics, just a little, dash. Anyway, yes, and I send out a weekly newsletter every Saturday, so please visit and sign up.
And I must say, it's an insightful newsletter.
Thank you.
Yes, absolutely.
Thanks so much.
So everyone, thank you so much for listening.
And we will see you next time.
And we'll see you next time. Thanks so much for getting this far through the episode. I just want to take a moment to tell you about the two main options of my astrology services. So the first one is coaching. If you are an aspiring astrologer, and by that I mean someone who's perhaps a hobbyist astrologer, or someone who's learning astrology, or a student, or you've got a few books and you've been doing it for a while, but perhaps you need a little bit of help to bring it all together, then maybe getting some astrological coaching from me would be the answer for you. The astrology coaching I offer is a 1-hour session on Zoom, and it's tailored to answer your particular questions. For example, if you have issues with natal chart readings, we can go there. Or if you're having problems working with your forecasting, we can go there. Or even basic astrology stuff, or even getting yourself organized for your astrology business. The idea is that astrological coaching will answer your particular questions. It's tailored specifically to you and where you are in your astrological journey. And I'm happy to help you out with some guidance about how you can get going, what to focus on, and what to dismiss. So that would be the astrological coaching for people trying to learn astrology. The second astrological service I offer is consultations. So this is for someone who perhaps doesn't know anything about astrology, but they just want to have their chart read or get their chart done. Call it what you will. So once more, this is a 1-hour consultation over Zoom. I will interpret your chart, tell you about the main features, tell you about where the energy is flowing, and all the rest of what is entailed in a thorough natal chart interpretation. I can also add in some forecasting in there too, bearing in mind we only have 1 hour. So just in summary, I've got coaching for people who want to learn astrology, and I've got consultations for those who want to get an astrology reading done. I'm Alison Price from Starzology.com. Thank you so much for listening. We'll see you next time.